On October 25th, 2014, Londell McNeil, Davion DeAndre Combs, Cedric Octavia Harris, and Paul Demetrius Allen were cruising the streets of East South Central Los Angeles with one thing on their mind: revenge. Armed with several guns, including a .357 caliber revolver and a Glock 23, the Avalon Gangster Crips were out for blood in a search of Keon Harris, a member of the A7 Gangster Crips, because they believed he was responsible for the death of Kurt Kirby, a fellow Avalon member. After spinning the block a few times, they were unable to find Keon, so the Avalon members kept driving until they approached the vehicle in the heart of the A7 Gangster Crips territory, occupied by Leroy Bernandez and Diallo McQuinn. It was time for action. Today, we'll address what went down that night and several other situations as we get into who are the Avalon Gangster Crips. This gang is one of the oldest Crip gangs in Los Angeles, and they have some crazy headlines attached to their history. They also have several reputable members like Jimel Barnes, who helped establish the gang as one of the most feared in the area. So they definitely have a story to tell. Yeah. All right. Welcome to Cali's Most Dangerous. Let's get into it.
And that's the problem. You know, they from younger dudes this small got guns this big. You know, back then it was the 22, the 32, and the 38. Now you got a Desert Eagle, a goddamn automatic .357.
Combs, Harris, and Allen belong to the A8 Avalon Garden Crips. All three are friends with McNeil, a fellow member of the AGCs. At the time of the crimes in question, the AGC's main rivals were the A7 Gangster Crips, which claims the areas just west of the AGC's territory. Several years earlier, McNeil had been struck in the hand with a bullet, and his fellow gang member and his best friend, Kurt Kirby, aka Kirby, was killed in McNeil's presence. McNeil, who later memorialized Kirby by getting a tattoo of a teardrop and the letters IS, which stood for Kirby's nickname, Infant Solo, near his right eye, believed Keon, a member of the rival gang, the A7 Gangster Crips, had perpetrated the homicide and was on a mission for revenge against him ever since. Well, fast forward to October 25th, 2014. McNeil Combs noticed a familiar face at the Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on Manchester Avenue and Main Street and seen that it was Keon. The men left right after that and told Harris that Keon was at the restaurant before McNeil Combs picked up guns at an associate's house. Harris then drove McNeil, Combs, and Allen in his SUV to the Roscoe's. By the time they got to the Roscoe's though, Keon was gone. So the men continued driving deeper into the A7 Gangsters territory until they spotted Monte Carlo near 88th Place and Wall Street. McQuinn drove to Monte Carlo while Bernandez sat in the front passenger seat. The crazy part is, Bernandez has actually observed the SUV moments before and told McQuinn it looked like some Avalons inside the SUV. But it was too late. The A7 Gangster Crip members had already slipped up. McQueen, traveling northbound on Wall Street, stopped at the intersection of 88th Place and Wall Street. And just past the intersection, Harris's SUV did the same as it faced eastbound on 88th Place. A few seconds later, McNeil Combs hopped out of the SUV and began firing at the Monte Carlo. McNeil stood in front of Combs and fired a single shot from his .357 caliber revolver, and Combs stood behind him and fired 15 shots from his Glock 23. But while firing, one of the bullets fatally struck McNeil in the back of the head. The bullet entered the back of McNeil's head and exited at the slight higher level through his forehead as McNeil collapsed on the ground. McQuinn sped away as McNeil and Combs were firing at the Monte Carlo while Bernandez ducked in his seat. Several bullets struck the Monte Carlo. They also blew out a tire and shattered the side and rear windows. Meanwhile, Combs got into the back of the SUV and fled with Harris and Allen as McNeil lay lifeless. After driving for a few blocks, O'Quinn abandoned the Monte Carlo near 88th Street and Broadway, and a friend then picked up McQuinn and Bernandez as they left the area. Police responded to the scene. McNeil's body lay face up on the southeast corner of 88th Place and Wall Street. A .357 caliber revolver rested near his hand. The revolver contained 5 live rounds and 1 casing from an expended round. Police also gathered 15 .40 caliber casings that spread throughout southeast and northeast corners of 88th Place and Wall Street. The casings had been fired from the same .40 caliber gun. Police later located and secured the abandoned Monte Carlo. The car had 3 bullet fragments, 2 inside the truck and 1 in the rear tire. The bullets had been fired at a roughly 45-degree angle and traveled through the right side of the car, the passenger side to the left. All 3 projectiles came from the same .40 caliber handgun. The 3 men were caught over the course of a few weeks, and due to testimonies from several witnesses and evidence provided by the trial, the court sentenced Allen, Harris, and Combs to life in prisons, which each term doubled due to each of them having a prior strike. Man, that just shows you how crazy it gets when you in the streets. You go out hunting for a life and end up losing yours. If that's not a lesson, I don't know what is. That's just one story about these guys. Trust, it's a lot of other crazy situations that we about to address. But first, let's get into the danger rating of the Avalon Gangster Crips. The Avalon Gangster Crips, they don't get a danger rating of a 9 out of 10 based off of the gang's long history of violence, robberies, and multiple means of extortion. This gang thrives on fear, intimidation, and respect, which is why they've always been at the forefront of a lot of crazy storylines. What do y'all think though? Would y'all win higher or lower? Y'all let me know in the comments, man. Let's have a conversation about this. Hey, yo, and give me some reasons on why too. But let's get into a couple more stories as we continue to address the Avalon Gangster Crips.
I cry cause I feel all alone. See, mama spit me out the womb and left me to be grown. I'm slinging rocks plus lyrics since the age of 10. Learning that I need skrill in this game to get in. I'm stepping over dead bodies, niggas going to the core. Women selling they pussy like that's all it's made for.
On October 30th, 2015, Cedric Horn was working as a landscaper while his girlfriend Nicole Perkins accompanied him to work. After completing other landscaping jobs, they arrived at 943 West 68th Street at around 5:30 p.m., where they met Horn's boss. This location was in the territory claimed by the 6'5" Menlo Crips. Horn asked Perkins to go get gas, telling her his landscaping job, it wasn't gonna take that long. Perkins stayed at the location for around 10 minutes before leaving. It was gone for 15 to 20 minutes. During that time, Horn and his boss mowed the lawn. They finished their work and Horn's boss left, leaving Horn at the site. Sometime before Horn's boss departed and before Perkins returned, Horn was packing up his landscaping equipment when a black male walks up to him and opens fire, shooting him 7 times with a 9mm handgun. 2 of the shots proved fatal. The murder was witnessed by 14 people, saying they seen a black male approach and shoot Horn, and surveillance cameras caught a Chevrolet Avalanche truck in an area during the murder that belonged to Avalon Gangster Crip member Weldon Bedford. Bedford was on the run for a while, but on November 7, 2016, Bedford was arrested and brought in for questioning. Eventually, he admitted that he drove the Chevrolet Avalanche truck using the shooting, but asserted that he had no idea the shooter, who he later identified as Andrew Campbell, was going to shoot Horn. Bedford, he claimed that Campbell and 2 other friends were headed to a marijuana dispensary on Florence Avenue, slightly west of Vermont. He said he was taking the side streets to avoid traffic on Florence when Campbell suddenly told him to stop the truck. Bedford did so, and Campbell exited, shot Horn, and got back in the truck as he sped off. Bedford also claimed he didn't know Campbell was carrying a gun. A videotaped interview of Bedford conducted by detectives was played for the jury. As discussed before, Bedford admitted that he was driving an Avalanche truck, but he claimed that he, Campbell, and his 2 other friends were headed to the marijuana dispensary on Florence Avenue, and that the shooting came as a complete surprise to him. When it came to gang evidence, Bedford admitted to police several times that he was a member of the Avalons. Officers also encountered him several different times at South Park, a known hangout for the Avalons, and Bedford was usually sitting with different Avalon members. Bedford also had tattoos indicating his membership. Up until the day he was arrested too, officers also frequently seen Bedford congregating and socializing with other 5'3" Avalon Gangster Crips. While Bedford had denied several times being an active member of the Avalons, gang members often denied membership because they knew any criminal charges against them would be enhanced due to gang membership. Bedford, he also denied being a shooter, but claimed that the shooting may have been done in an attempted retaliation. Bedford was also aware of the feuds that the Avalons had with other gangs. In the end, due to several witness testimonies, surveillance evidence, and Bedford's interview with detectives, Weldon Bedford and his co-defendants were found guilty of murder and sentenced to 60 years to life in prison. Yeah, insane. That's the first word I thought of when going over these stories. These guys have several other stories that we were about to address too. And trust, man, they get wild, they get crazy. But first, let's get into who are the Avalon Gangster Crips.
We grew up fighting every day. These some of the homies, they'll tell you. We had a game in this park we used to play every single day. It's pick up the blue rag. Whoever picked up the blue rag, you had to scrap. And you wasn't scrapping with one dude. You was scrapping with every motherfucker who came from the angle.
The Avalon Gangster Crips are a gang located on the east side of South Central Los Angeles, California. When it comes to other races, they're an African-American gang, but they're definitely known to put on other races. You just can't be no bitch. Only Debos and Reds in the cliques. Bars, nigga. When it comes to the tires, they lokes. so they definitely wear a lot of blue to show their Crip affiliation. They're also known to wear a lot of Atlanta Braves or Oakland A's sports apparel to signify their alliance with the Avalon Gangster Crips. And also, when it comes to cars and umbrellas, the Avalon Gangster Crips are definitely under the Gangster Crip umbrella. But due to them beefing and being at war with a lot of other Gangster Crips, you never hear them say terms like moving, which is the term heavily attached to the member of the Trey Gangsters. They swing. When it comes to subsets, the Avalon Crips consist of 4. The 116 Avalon Gangster Crips, the 88 Avalon Garden Crips, the 53 Avalon Gangster Crips, and the 40 Avalon Gangster Crips. The Eastside 88 Avalon Garden Crips are an African-American gang whose turf is located east of the 110 freeway in South Los Angeles, California. This particular subset of the gang was founded in a housing project named the Avalon Gardens, located on 88th Place between Avalon Boulevard and Central Avenue, and they were the first subset of the Avalon Crips. The 116 Avalon Gangster Crips, also known as the 11/6 Avalon Gangster Crips, are also a subset under the Avalon Gangster Crips umbrella. This subset originated around 116th and Avalon Boulevard, and at one point, the 11/6 Avalon Gangster Crips were one of the most active gangs on the east side of South Central throughout the 80s and the 90s. Starting off as a prominent gang known as the Businessmen in the 1960s and 70s, the 5 Avalon Gangster Crips are an African-American gang located on the east side of South Central Los Angeles, and they also are the second largest subset of the Avalon Gangster Crips. South Park, Los Angeles, California has always been a known hangout for this gang as well. And last is the Rolling 40 Avalon Gangster Crips, also commonly known as the Avalon 40 Crips. Their neighborhood is located on Main Street between Vernon Avenue and Martin Luther King. The Avalon 40s also consist of 2 cliques, 44th Street and 43rd Street, and are known as the Rolling 40s. Yeah, and these subsets is trying to go. Licks, drive-bys, murder scenes, these locs did it all, and a lot more. Bars, nigga. History of the Avalon Gangster Crips.
Avalon Gardens is the hangout of a Crip gang.
So what you guys doing, spraying the wall again? Say what?
That's been up here.
You guys right here, paint looks fresh to me. Turn around. Paint looks real fresh to me.
Simple enough.
What gang are you with, man?
On gangbangs.
Hey, come on, cut the stuff.
On
If
gang.
I dropped you off in slob territory, then what are you gonna tell me then?
Then I'm just gonna tell you don't drop me off over there because I got on blue and they don't like it.
Yeah, drive through the Avalon Gardens. Just don't pull over or park in. That's how you end up parked, man. Bars, nigga. Nah, we can't fully get into the history of the Avalon Gangster Crips without going over a little history of the Avalon Garden housing projects. At a cost of $638,000, the projects were built and administered by the city of Los Angeles in 1941 in an effort to house war workers during World War II. But in 1947, the housing projects were open to low-income residents, and by the 1950s, the residents went from military families to low-income families. During these years, white flight was in full effect, and red zones started forming, creating basically invisible walls for minorities across Los Angeles County, which limited them to certain areas like Watts, East Los Angeles, and South Central. And this was regardless of their financial situation. But none of that was an issue then. There were prominent chapters of the Black Panther in Los Angeles who helped the community thrive. But unfortunately, these groups and their leaders were brought down by racist organizations within the CIA. This left a void in these local communities, and different factions started to form and fill these holes. Groups like the Slawsons, the Gladiators, the Dale Vikings, and the Businessmen started to form. Eventually, groups like the West Side Crips and the East Side Crips started to establish themselves around Los Angeles. Jimel Barnes, who was a member of the East Side Crips, with Raymond Washington and Craig Taddock, decided to start his own Crip set in the Avalon Gardens, where he resided, and the rest was history. The Avalon Garden Crips, along with the 4 Crips and the Grundy Crips in Compton, were among the first Crip gangs to splinter off from the original Crip structures on the East Side, West Side, and the Compton Crip structure. And like already mentioned, the 88 Avalon Garden Crips were the first subset of the Avalon Crips. Rivals of the Avalon Gangster Crips. The Avalons have a history of going at it with a lot of gangs in Los Angeles, including different Gangster Crips. Rivals of the Avalon Gangster Crips include the East Coast Crips, which originally started over a female but quickly grew to an all-out war. Like we know in all these videos at this point, man, that pussy will get you in trouble, man, will get you in trouble. But we love it though. Other beefs include the 4-Trey Gangster Crips, the 4-7s, and the 4-8 Gangster Crips. They actually beef with a lot of other Gangster Crips as well too, like the 9-7 Gangster Crips and the 8-7 Gangster Crips. And pretty much all neighborhood gangs, like the neighborhood rolling 50 Crips, the neighborhood rolling 40 Crips, and the neighborhood rolling 60 Crips. They also used to beef with the Bloodstone villains, but that war has died off over the years. I couldn't really pinpoint the Avalon's top enemies, but y'all let me know in the comments who y'all think the Avalons have beefed with over the most over the years. Hopefully it's died up by now, but y'all let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Prominent figures from the set. The Avalon Gangster Crips have a lot of members who have helped earn the gang its respect and establish themselves as a force in Los Angeles. But during my research, I also found a list of OGs and members who are no longer with us, so rest in peace to them. A few of them include Crazy Ray, Lil Cycle, Dirt, Lunatic, and Snoop. Y'all let me know in the comments if any members who are no longer with us, man. Let their names live on, let their names live on. Some of the OGs from the set include Jimel Barnes. Like I already mentioned, he was one of the godfathers of the Crips. Going as far as back as middle school, has been friends with Raymond Washington, the founder of the Crips. With his close ties to the Crips, he went on to lead the Avalon Garden Crips. It's also OG Louis Ellen, Baby Pooch, and it's also YouTuber Cartoon from Avalon. Yeah, tap in, man. He got some cool stories in his game for the youngins and the older folks as well. They also have a few rappers who have put in work for the set as well. They include OG Cell, aka Twin Lope, a rapper from the nationwide Rip Riders, which is a rap group who was affiliated with the Rolling 40s Avalon Gangster Crips. It's also Big Payback, T-Bone, T-Bo, CMC Tanner, and Vonnie Lope. Yeah, y'all definitely tap in with these artists, man. Y'all let me know in the comments if I'm leaving out any other cool artists I might miss or anything like that, and any other OGs as well. Current state of the Avalon Gangster Crips. The Avalon Gangster Crips are one of the older Crip gangs in Los Angeles. And trust, this city has seen a lot of gangs who were around in the 1970s and 80s disappear by the 2000s. But this gang remains to be one of the more active gangs in Los Angeles. They're still holding down their territory and also going to war with whoever needs it, and overall thriving today. They've grown to the point to where they have subsets in different states as well. They have subsets in North Carolina, New York, Texas, Oklahoma, and Maryland. But y'all let me know in the comments if I'm leaving out your state, man. Rep your state, rep your state. That's it for the Avalon Gangster Crips. Y'all got any crazy stories about these guys? Any close calls? Also, did I miss anything? Did I get anything wrong? Y'all let me know in the comments, man. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's have a conversation. Subscribe. Hit that bell if it went well. Y'all stay safe and dangerous out there.